Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That's Robert Scanlon, the author of the Dreamer Chronicles. And my voice is back, so you get to hear me on the intro again. But Robert, of course, did a great job filling in for me as the lead vocals for the podcast, the last two shows. So, Robert, I mean, you can see this on the video. You've had so many different backgrounds in the last few weeks.
I'm a man on the move, aren't I? They keep throwing me out of places in Australia here. Yeah, we've just sold our house, so we've been in some temporary accommodation, and now I'm over at my wonderful mother-in-law's place. It's a beautiful morning here in Australia, nice. And we had some rain overnight, and I thought I was going to have to tell you, oh man, it's raining. But here, just for those who are watching on YouTube, you can just see it's
no rain.
It's pretty spectacular out there.
I don't see a cloud in the sky out there.
Yeah, that's right. I got up and there was clouds in the sky, and it was finishing up raining, and then by the time I got here, half an hour later, it was blue sky. So it's going to be a good day. How's Chicago?
Great. It's getting warm, which is not warm for Australia, but it's getting warm for here, and it's been great just walking outside and seeing the sun. Always a happy thing.
Seeing the sun. Have you seen any stars?
You know, it's tough to see stars in the city, but, you know, I try to read as much about stars as I can, personally.
What a segue.
What a segue into Hugh Howey's first book, Molly Fyde and the Parsona Rescue. Obviously, Hugh Howey, a big indie stalwart and the author of the Wool series, which is very, very popular. But his first series of books, Molly Fyde, the Burn series, Burn Saga, I forget.
Yep.
Burn Saga. Really good. This was so fun to read, and I haven't read any of his stuff, so it was great after reading many essays by him, many blog posts to read his fiction. So I'm really excited to talk about that and some space travel adventures today. Well, are you excited?
I'm really excited. Yeah, I love this book. Take it away. Give us a bit of a summary.
All right. Molly Fyde was the only girl in Flight Academy until she was expelled by her sexist commander. She'd nearly adjusted to life in a normal high school when her father's old starship turned up on the other side of the galaxy. She sets off on a long journey across the cosmos with her old flight partner / crush and treats it like a spring break vacation. Gunfire, flooding, arms dealers, betrayal, and even a fusion bomb may turn this into the last trip Molly will ever take. So, man, my first thoughts on this, great characters in a rich, detailed world that really had me enthralled from the beginning. What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It starts with a very brief dream sequence, and at first I was worried because no, you don't start with a dream sequence. Made that mistake myself before, and then it kind of runs into some other chapters which are a fight in space, a battle in space, and I was thinking, is this real or no? And then that turns out to be a simulator, and I'm thinking, yeah, but you're right, the action starts right away, and even though it was a battle fight in a simulator, I really loved it. I loved the whole book.
Yeah.
I just thought, I have read the Wool series some time back, because I wanted to see what the fuss was about, of course, and I was really looking forward to some interesting new science fiction, and it didn't grab me in the way that some of the other fans raved about it. There were some things, some plot holes, some weak characters, and some writing quirks that put me off. So I was actually a little wary of reading this, and so I was absolutely delightfully surprised. It was a really, really good, fun, right, hit the YA mark. There's no question about that. And maybe even a bit younger as well. Even those.
Yeah, I think it could. There's no content in there that really pulls you out. I mean, there's some violence and fighting, but there isn't any sexual content,
No,
and so
no. Maybe
yeah, no,
maybe a
younger YA.
entire planetary genocide maybe isn't quite.
Spoiler alert.
Oops.
um,
But yeah,
and
sorry. I just I do think though there was plenty of action sequences and twists and turns, and certainly for me, this was a more enjoyable book than Wool.
yeah, I haven't read Wool yet, so I'll have to check that out. But speaking of Wool, those books are divided into the novellas. They're divided into the different parts.
Yes.
Um, this book, while a full length novel, almost feels like it may have been 3 or 4 novels shoved into one. There's so much stuff that happens. There's so much
Yes.
action.
Yes.
And I think it benefits the book in pacing, but it might detract from fully explaining the series of events that befall our characters, especially that new mysterious anti-technology race on another planet. That I felt like we spun through that so quickly that I never really got my bearings during that part, and maybe 1 or 2 other parts where I was like, wait, we're already going? We're leaving here? I'm so
Yes.
confused.
Yes. Yes.
So that was definitely something that struck me as a reader.
Yes. Yeah. I shared the same thing. There were a couple of times where I had to flick back just to confirm that I hadn't missed something. There was one part where the spaceship crashes, and I didn't really quite understand why or what Molly was attempting to do to stop it doing that, and it was never really ever backfilled. So I do think, yeah, it moves at a fairly cracking pace. One of the things I said in my notes is that if you like the original Star Trek episodes, then probably this kind of story will appeal because it is, as you say, very episodic. It could have been pulled out. Some of those side stories weren't necessary to the overall plot at all.
Yeah.
And they definitely added depth and interest, and I loved them, absolutely loved them. It really reminded me of, even though it's a totally different book, because this has got some quite dark philosophy in it, surprisingly. About mankind and what we should and shouldn't be doing, and maybe what our future might look like if we end up like the Glemots or the Glemots or whatever you call them. His dialogue was wonderful. I'll come back to that.
Yes, that was fun.
But I really thought it was quite similar to the sequel to Ender's Game, Speak for the Dead, in a way, in the way that it sort of looks at life on other planets and different settings. And I thought what Hugh Howey did really well is, for the reader, this is as you said, making descriptive settings and alien settings that were really quite believable, that I might have liked to have lingered in longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there are plenty more books in the series, of course. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. One thing I want to touch upon, last thing as a reader, from the reader perspective, a lot of writers, when they write other worlds, they tend, and I myself included, they tend to write them as 2nd or 3rd degree Earth carbon copies.
yes.
And all of the worlds that Howey visits, that Howey's characters visit in this book, are extremely unique. They're very different from each other, and they're very different from Earth. And I found that very impressive.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And for me, that sort of even spilled out into the whole writers thing, which we'll come to. But I do think that's, for me, one of the reasons why his Wool series is also really appealed, is because he has a way of describing a different world, and albeit these are alien worlds, in Wool it's on Earth. It really does give you a good sense of what could happen if that was the setting and those were the rules of that setting. And I quite like the Glemots for that reason, the aliens who were kind of, worked everything out on statistics and predictability and a balance, and natural balance. And even if that meant killing people off to restore a natural balance, it was quite clever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to spend more time there.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, writer perspective.
Yeah, debut novel.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about how he would later pull in like millions of people with his dystopian fiction,
Mm,
but this is a good book, and it's a good book for a debut, a great book for a debut. It's a good
mm,
book in general,
mm.
and I think it shows why you need to keep writing, because if you have a big hit somewhere down the line, people are going to go back and look at your old books. They're going to see they're going to like you, and they're going to want to say, "Wait, what is this person wrote? Did they come out of nowhere?" It's like, "No, here's a bunch of space books. Let's check these out." And I think you should always keep trying to write new things and expand your horizons. And it's a good thing Hugh Howey did.
Yes, he clearly likes his sci-fi, doesn't he? Because he tried to get the modified series published for ages and ages, and in fact he was working on that series when the first novella in Wool just suddenly took off. And if you read his story on his blog, that's exactly what happened. You kind of woke up one morning and, oh, people are responding to this Wool story thing, and he was much
Hmm.
more interested in modified than he was in Wool. So
Yeah.
it is, you know, a lot of people say, oh, write in one genre and stick to it. But this is a case where, well, I suppose you could argue that they're in the sci-fi genre, but this is clearly a YA or even children's book compared to Wool, which is very clearly an adult and probably more on the dystopian side of things as well,
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
way that it works. So, yeah, I was a little torn because I went back and read the reviews. And if you look at the Amazon reviews, this is really interesting from a writer's perspective as to how people perceive your work. The 2009 reviews, which is when this Parsona Rescue book was released, are just glowing, you know, for the most part. You know, people love it like we have. You know, they've talked about it. Great story, good fun, you know, nothing maybe too deep about it except in some places. But you're going to want to keep reading, and every chapter has a great kind of cliffhanger moment. It's just clever stuff. It's well thought through, and certainly for
Yeah.
the first book, it's excellent. But then in 2012, the people who have consumed all of the Wool trilogy have piled in thinking, I need more Howie, and started reading this, and maybe not expected that it was going to be a different end of the same sci-fi genre. And
Yeah.
and and they pan it.
Yeah.
They pan it. It's like, oh, it's nothing like Wool. And for me, it's the other way around. I think it's better than Wool, personally. So it just goes to show personal taste and positioning in the marketplace as well. You know, so sometimes that great success can be your biggest enemy as well. I mean, I really just don't think he deserves some of those reviews that panned the thing. It's
No, I think those are the consequences of writing in multiple genres and
yes,
multiple sides of the same genre. You're
yes,
going to get people who go. I mean, Suzanne Collins wrote a lot of work before she wrote The Hunger Games, and so people going back expecting The Hunger
yes.
Games aren't going to find it.
Yes, yes. So in other words, one should avoid success completely, so we don't get that kind of thing happening.
Very true. That's our takeaway for sure.
But I'm in
Uh,
agreement with you. Yeah, absolutely keep writing, and you know, because you never know, something's going to take off, and they will consume the previous stuff. Would that mean, Brian, that if you did have something take off in the future, let's say in a couple of years' time, you're writing a different series, Ted Saves the World has completed its 15-book run, and would you go back and rewrite books 1 and 2?
I've considered rewriting, and I still go back and forth on it. I
Mm.
think that book four is better than book three, which is better than book two, which is better than book one, because I'm growing with each one.
Yes.
But there's something about leaving your debut book to stand alone, and I still get positive reviews on it. And so I think that, maybe just keep it how it is and suck up and deal with the 1 and 2 star reviews I'll get for people who aren't fans.
When you're at
Because if
Howard
people are
status,
fans
yeah.
of book one, they're gonna love the rest because they just keep getting better.
Well, that's the way I figure it too, and I feel the same way about my 3 that are out there. I think book 3 is by far and away superior to 2, which is by far and away superior to 1. And, you know, it must be the same for artists as well. If you look at it from an art point of view, people who are drawing and painting, you know you're going to get more skilled every time you do one. And you must look at their earlier work and think, ooh, did I really draw that? You know, it's a little bit like looking what you did when you were a kid, you know, the things that your parents have kept and pull out to show you, oh, I thought that was brilliant when I drew that.
Yeah,
So
pretty
yeah,
much.
always keep writing. Yeah, most definitely. Did you have anything else from a writer's perspective?
I think this was a true coming of age story, both externally and internally for Molly. And I think this story does both sides extremely well, which I think gives you the right amount of internal versus external. She has to deal with a bunch of circumstances, but also has to cope with things in her life and her understanding. And I have a feeling that kind of coping is going to continue throughout the series.
Mm.
And so I definitely think that authors looking to do coming of age stories really look to this one because it hits it from two different fronts.
Mm. Well said. Yeah, actually, that's something I meant to say is that I think the two lead characters, both Molly and Cole, are really well written. And when you think Molly is she's a 17-year-old female struggling with coming to grips with things in life, and Hugh, you know, he and his wife are not even parents yet, as far as I'm aware. So to have written something that insightful from a female teenager's perspective, I think is really, really well done. There's some good struggle there, as you say, both external and internal, and she has no choice. It's kind of grow or die, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Something else I liked as well from the writer's perspective is there were times when this book didn't seem planned to me, and I'm a real planner. You know, I'm an outliner. I love to really, really clear on where my stories are going. And there was some super unexpected twists in here. You know, as if Howie wrote the book by the seat of his pants and decided to kind of leave in those totally left field elements. And you know, a book can really fall down for that reason. But this, for me, it just made it great. There's really unexpected sort of episodic elements that just kind of rocked up. You go, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, he may have written it almost serial style.
Yes.
And I don't know if he intended to do that, but I think when you're writing your first book in fits and starts, you're going to get different feels at different parts of it. So that could be why.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, if he was working in the bookshop or doing his roofing work or whatever and fitting it in between, sometimes it's hard to get the flow. Which is why I really like the idea that you write a few sentences when you end your session for that day. You write a few sentences about what you're going to write the next day, and if the next day doesn't happen because you get busy, then, well, you know, you can pick that up and more easily than having to go back and reread, which I really don't like doing because that just reminds me how much editing I have to do.
That's why I outline like crazy
Me
so
too,
that
yeah.
I know what's happening the next day.
Me too.
So do you have any other writing thoughts?
Not so much, no. I think there's you know, some interesting. I really liked how the aliens were played out from a writer's perspective. That was really my last thing. Is both on the planet Palan and also the Gleamots. They're quite different. You know, one of them is sort of more humanoid, and the others are not at all humanoid, and have this really interesting way of using English because they learnt it all from the technical manual of a satellite. And I thought that was wonderful. I love the way they speak. My authoritative label is Robert. What might yours be? Yes. I like it.
Yeah, no, that is one of the highlights for sure. Go read this book, even just for the Gleamont section.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think everyone should read it. And look, you know, maybe you didn't like Wool, and maybe you might be like me. And well, it's not supposed I didn't like it. I just couldn't see what the big fuss was about. Whereas this, I just, you know, I really enjoyed going back to the iPad and just picking up, going, oh, great, more Morley Fyde tonight. Cool. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
How was the audiobook, by the way?
Oh, it was good. The actress who narrated it was strong. And I think she was a good choice. She was a good Molly, and she played all the other characters well. So
nice.
Yeah, good audio. So, would you like to take the first takeaway or the
Yeah,
second takeaway?
yeah. I'll take the first if you like.
Go for it.
And I think it's kind of relates to something you said about writing in more genres and just keep writing. And I think, take each book on its own merit. I like this more than Wool. You might like the Wool series more than this, but each book, each story deserves its own stage. It deserves its own place in your psyche. So I think reading books and comparing them is a dangerous thing. And storytelling is what I'm more interested in, and I think the story in this is fun. So my first takeaway.
I agree. Good takeaway. Second takeaway: when you create worlds, get down to the nitty gritty, make it unique, and it is really going to stand out because I was just blown away by that aspect of Molly Fyde.
I'll add my 2 cents into that as well, which is not my third takeaway, but I'd also written about the alien settings, thinking that I could see the beginnings. When you read Wool, you'll see this. One of the things that Hugh Howe is really good at is making that setting. And he's definitely gone down to the detailed level. Even though you're not there long enough sometimes, the detail level is enough to let you know that this is a really different world. So, yeah, well said. Third takeaway, I think this is a great female lead in a kind of mainstream sci-fi action adventure, and it stirs in some frightening futurist glimpses, and I think that makes for a great overall story setting, not just the individual alien worlds.
I totally agree. I would love to see this on screen. I would love to see, because it's a capable female role. She kicks butt. She feels pain. It's a good all around role. It'd be a good for an actor or an actress to play, but thankfully it's an actress who will probably be playing, and so I would love to see that.
When you're next chatting to HBO to finalise that contract on the TED series, maybe you could mention that you think Molly Fyde would be a good one for them to take up as well.
I'll make sure to put a good word in with them.
Yeah, he would appreciate it.
Yeah, I know he needs my help. So I've got a prompt.
Take it away.
Imagine that you had to take a journey to a far-off world. Who would be your companion and why? How would you deal with the many dangerous challenges you had to face throughout the universe? Yeah.
You mentioned the companions thing. You think about things like Star Trek. The characters are really what made that series come alive. You just can't imagine it.
That's true. You can't just have a space show. You need good characters.
Exactly. I mean, Shatner memes and Spock memes have survived through the decades. So, good point about the companions. I like it.
Oh, thank you. So you can answer our prompt of the week on the splitbookreviews.com. We would love to hear from you. You can post those in the comments section. We would also love it if you left us a review on iTunes over at the Split's iTunes page, and we have links to that on the splitbookreviews.com. You can also send us an email at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com. I think there might be another one in there too, but that's one I remember.
That's the one that'll work. It'll get to both of us.
That's the one that'll get to both of us. And you can suggest a book for us to read. I know in 2 weeks we have a suggestion that's coming up. So that's very exciting. And we love to take your suggestions. And thank you for the kind words. We've been getting some kind words. We appreciate all those kind words about the show.
About the radio voices. Thank you very much. And and one more thing we can add in there now as well. We now have a mailing list. So should you wish to be a part of the inner circle, because I believe later this year we're giving away some holidays and I think some Rolls Royces. I believe that there is a paid trip to Disney World. No, that's the other show. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the show in our minds.
That's it. But seriously, if you'd like to become a part of the inner circle, there will be freebies coming, no doubt, later in the year, and we'd love to keep in touch with everybody via our regular mailings. So by all means, come and join up. You should just be able to go to the splitbookreviews.com, kind of hover around there, and pretty soon there'll be some kind of pop-up thing saying, hey, join our mailing list, receive a free Rolls Royce, or something similar.
Or something similar, asterisk.
Yes.
Well, yes, we would love to have you on our mailing list. Thank you. Good point. Good point, Robert. I think that's our episode. So Good stuff. I'm glad that we did this one because I'd always wanted to read one of Hugh's books. So very exciting. Thank you guys for listening to The Split. For Robert Scanlon of the Dreamer Chronicles, I'm Bryan Cohen of the Ted Saves the World series. Come check us out next week where we're going to do our first shorter work, our first novella, The Prince by Kira Cass, a prequel novella to The Selection. So check that out. It's a short read, and we'll have some interesting things to say about it when you come check us out next week.
Yes, thanks again. And in the meantime, of course, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.